Last week, on July 14th, 2019, President Trump issued several racist tweets directed to 4 freshman congresswomen. These 4 congresswomen, known as the Squad, include New York Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Minnesota Representative Ilhan Omar, Michigan Representative Rashida Tlaib, and Massachusetts Representative Ayanna Pressley. In these tweets, President Trump told these 4 women to go back to their own countries and try to fix the broken and corrupt systems there. Although these tweets have garnered a lot of attention due to President Trump's racist remarks, a lot of people ignore the origin of this conflict. This conflict actually originated from a dispute between the Squad and Nancy Pelosi. In this dispute, these 4 congresswomen these politicians were arguing about the border funding bill, which has caused a lot of controversy. In this dispute, these 4 congresswomen made several disparaging remarks regarding the United States, and that's when President Trump got involved. After President Trump tweeted all these racist remarks, the border funding bill discussion was dropped among these politicians as a more pressing issue had emerged. Although the issue of President Trump's racist tweets has garnered a lot of attention and has sparked a lot of discussion among people about our racist president, I feel that 2 truths have gone unnoticed. The first is that the countries that President Trump was most likely referring to in his tweets actually have the broken and corrupt systems that they have today almost completely due to U.S. intervention. The second truth that I feel goes ignored is that although President Trump is racist and obnoxious, a lot of people point to tweets like these and actions such as these as reasons why we should have a different president who is more polite. And this kind of implies that President Trump is a huge step backwards in terms of the issue of race equality and the discussion of racism in general. And that is actually not true, because these problems about racism have persisted a long time before President Trump was elected. So the first point I would like to discuss today is about that the U.S. almost single-handedly caused all of the political conflicts, economic issues, and wars in the Middle East and Latin America. One example of this is Chile. On September 11, 1973, a U.S.-backed coup ousted the president Salvador Allende and put in his place General Augusto Pinochet. After Pinochet was put into place as leader, he implemented a lot of Friedmanite economic reforms. These included deregulating the economy, getting rid of price controls, and also privatizing a lot of industries. After putting into these free market reforms, a lot of people lost their jobs and fell into poverty, and the whole country lost a lot of money. The only people who gained from those economic reforms were actually the CEOs of foreign companies who took advantage of the economic problems in Chile and exploited its people there. This is one example of how U.S. economic, the Chicago School economic ideas spouted by Milton Friedman and other proponents of capitalism actually caused a lot of conflicts all around the world. Now, besides economic reforms, another example of in Latin America also showcases how the U.S. has a tendency to intervene in other countries and just cause problems there. I'm talking about Venezuela. You may have heard of what happened between Juan Guaido, who is a Venezuelan politician, and President Maduro, who is currently the president of Venezuela. I do not know much about Maduro or any of his policies, but no matter how unpopular he is in Venezuela, it is not the U.S.'s place to prop up a politician to take Maduro's place and oust Maduro and put this other guy into power. Many people point to Venezuela as a place where many people are suffering in poverty and where there is high inflation and a huge shortage of basic needs such as food. However, many people ignore the huge impact that U.S. sanctions have had in these economic problems in Venezuela. The reason many people are starving there is because of U.S. sanctions. I believe that these two countries, Venezuela and Chile, show that U.S. intervention has actually had a huge effect in the politics of Latin America. Now, the other truth that I feel goes unnoticed in this conflict between U.S. politicians is political correctness. I feel that political correctness has placed a huge importance on what people say rather than their actions. One example of this is how people treat President Trump. President Trump is seen by many people as an obnoxious racist due to his racist tweets and his racist rhetoric. But what many people do not notice is that these policies that disadvantage people of color have been implemented long before President Trump was put into power. One example of this is the migrant crisis at our southern border. Although many people censor President Trump because he has put people in cages, what people ignore is that this detention of people in facilities at the border has gone on for a long time. In the 1970s and 80s, we put Cubans and Haitians in Guantanamo. In addition, our last president before President Trump, President Obama, actually leads in deportations among all other U.S. presidents. During his administration, President Obama deported more than 3 million people, which is more people than George W. Bush and President Trump. However, President Obama is not called racist by anyone. No one points out these cruelties made by the Obama administration simply because President Obama is charismatic and not openly racist. This just goes to show that if we have another Democrat in office, it is certain that people will just crawl back into their safe holes and go back into hibernation. However, no matter who is elected as president in the 2020 election, there is no doubt that we must keep fighting. We cannot go back into hibernation.